My next review in the Lethal Weapon franchise. Oh boy, I can't wait to get into this one. Today I'll be discussing what is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, my absolute favorite installment in the Lethal Weapon series. I love all these movies for different reasons. I even love the TV series. The TV series is surprisingly really good. But of all the Lethal Weapon franchise, there is no other installment that tickles my heart the most and gets me excited the most. Other than the amazing, in my opinion, Lethal Weapon 3. Yes, indeed. The infamous Lethal Weapon 3 to some people. And I say that because, unlike the first two films in the Lethal Weapon series, which were received with general positive reviews, sadly, the number 3 curse affects this franchise as well. Lethal Weapon 3 got initially mixed opinions upon its release. However, of the entire series, it's the highest grossing film in the Lethal Weapon franchise, making $321 million worldwide on a $35 million budget, which I believe is less than the previous film. Let's see. Lethal Weapon 2, okay, yeah, a lot less. The second film had a budget of $50 million. Oh, hey, Omega Picture. And the first film had a budget of $15 million. Damn. So, well, obviously, this movie... no, you're not late, Omega Picture. I just got started. So while obviously this movie has a bigger budget than the first movie, it has a significantly lower budget than the second movie. However, and that kind of seems to affect a lot of people's opinions. I've discussed this movie with people who I know, and they say most of what people say is it's just not as good as the first two. Now, me, I actually really have to disagree with this. Because once again, I'm one of those types of people who likes things people hate and hates things people like. However, not only am I a case with that going on, Lethal Weapon 3 was also the first Lethal Weapon movie I ever saw. I was up at my grandparents' lake house a few years ago, and my grandmother decided, she's actually a fan of these movies, she decided that she wanted to watch Lethal Weapon 3. Now, I think I've said this before. Before that moment, I had never seen a Lethal Weapon movie in my life. I had heard of the series, but I had never gotten around to seeing it. But I had nothing else to do at the time at the lake, so I said, okay, fine, I'll watch Lethal Weapon. Boy, am I glad that I did, because this movie kicks so much ass, in my opinion. I really don't understand the criticisms that people give this movie. Lethal Weapon 3 or Lethal Weapon 4 are usually regarded as the worst of the series. But it seems that Lethal Weapon 3 is the one that is regarded as the worst in the series the most. And again, I just don't get why, because there's a lot of things in this movie that I think kind of trump 1 and 2. As not to say that the first or second films are bad. Hell, I gave the second movie a 10 out of 10 rating. But I just want to, kind of set the mood here. This is not the last one. We got one more movie, and then we have a TV series to get through. So I just want to kind of set the mood. I absolutely love the ever-living shit out of this movie. So it's going to be kind of hard for me to review this objectively. However, unlike the last movie, where I could not find any cons, this movie has one. However, it's still not going to affect my overall rating of the film. I may have just given it away, but you'll see. So the plot of Lethal Weapon 3. The beginning of the movie opens with Roger Murtaugh and Martin Riggs, once again played by Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, are demoted to uniform patrol guys after trying to defuse a car bomb in a building before the bomb squad arrives in an empty office building. Where Riggs decides to go in and just cut the red wire instead of the blue wire, or just wait for the fucking bomb squad. It's probably one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie. Or not just the entire movie, but in the entire series. Raj and Murtaugh go in. 5 minutes later, they come out screaming with Raj holding a cat, and the bomb goes kaboomy. The whole building collapses, and right as the dust settles, the bomb squad arrives, and they all look around for Raj and Murtaugh, and they just... Bravo. It's one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, because you can just imagine, oh, damn, you guys are such idiots, is what's going through everyone's mind at that moment. So yeah, Riggs and Murtaugh are busted down to being patrol guys. And while they're on patrol, they witness the theft of an armored car. And they help to thwart the crime. Murtaugh getting inside another armored car with a female police officer, and Riggs jumping onto the armored car and starting to fight with the two fake police officers. One gets away. The other, Riggs causes to smash through the front windshield of the armored car, knocking him unconscious. And he is, of course, taken into police custody. And the suspect is found to be an associate of the infamous Jack Travis, played by Stuart Wilson, a former LAPD lieutenant who was, to quote the captain, one hell of a brutal cop who could beat a confession out of anybody. And he is also believed to have gone rogue and is running an arms smuggling ring in LA. Which, of course, arms dealing is a huge business. I mean, anybody who's seen the show Sons of Anarchy gets a taste of how big and how dangerous the arms dealing business is. It's a huge business, right behind the sex trade and drugs. It's insane. And also the department is further worried that the thieves were using armor-piercing bullets, which I'm guessing aren't allowed to be used civilian-wise. And on the streets, they're referred to as cop killers because they have the strength and power to pierce clean through a standard police bulletproof vest, going straight through the entire vest, front and back. Just right through it. And apparently these vests are strong enough to stop a .357 Magnum bullet at close range. So obviously this is a really big issue, because these bullets can just, one, maybe two shots, they can kill you. They just tear right through you. And upon crossing paths with Internal Affairs Officer Sergeant Lorna Cole, yeah, like Ricky O, who works for, as what Raj calls, Infernal Affairs, Riggs and Murtaugh are re-promoted back to Sergeant and assigned to work with Lorna Cole in order to track down Jack Travis, of course. Now, Travis is currently negotiating with a mobster named Tyrone regarding his big arms deal. And the armored car thief that has escaped is brought to Travis and kills him in front of Tyrone by forcing him into wet cement and then pouring it all over him and causing him to be trapped inside there, or to drown in the wet cement, which is kind of a nasty way to die. So he kills this guy for putting the police on his ass. Travis then uses his old but somehow still valid police credentials to enter the interrogation room and kill the suspect named Billy Phelps in custody before he can be interviewed. Comes in, opens the door to the interrogation room, shoots him 3 times, then just walks out, being sure to keep his face covered from the cameras inside. However, he was unaware that CCTV cameras have been installed inside the interrogation rooms, and they get an image of Jack's face completely clear and unobstructed. And Cole is able to affirm Travis's identity along with the captain. And while all three are reviewing the footage, their good friend Leo Getz, once again played by Joe Pesci, who has been helping Murtaugh sell his house, arrives and immediately... Yes, the last one is with Jet Li, Omega Picture. Fun fact, that was Jet Li's first American film. Anyway, first American film that he was in. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, he immediately recognizes Travis from several apparent prior business deals with his love of ice hockey. And Riggs and Murtaugh narrowly miss Travis at a hockey match that he attends that afternoon, but Getz has provided them with information of some type of warehouse that Travis owns, which is where they suspect Travis stores his arm dealing shipments. Riggs and Murtaugh contact Lorna Cole for backup before they raid the warehouse. And while they are waiting, while Murtaugh has decided to make a monster burger for Riggs, because Danny Glover is trying to get Riggs to quit smoking. One way of that is by having him eat dog biscuits. Riggs witnesses a drug deal, which they step in to stop. A gunfight breaks out, and Murtaugh kills one of those who had fired back at them, and while the rest of the little punk-ass kids escape. One of them having a compact MP5, who he just unleashes upon Riggs and Murtaugh, and the one that Murtaugh kills has an Uzi. Again, just unleashes upon Murtaugh, and Murtaugh kills him, unloading his entire pistol clip into him. And then he finds the dead kid. His name is Daryl, who is a close friend of Murtaugh's son, Nick. Close friend. The punk-ass kid dropped out of school and joined a gang. Which Murtaugh becomes emotionally distraught, and he kind of goes off the grid. So Riggs decides to team up with Cole after they have an argument, but then they decide to just put aside their differences and join forces. So they raid the warehouse, which they successfully overpower Travis's guards, and they also secure his next gunship delivery. In a pretty badass scene where Lorna Cole pretty much establishes herself as a female version of Riggs. I'll get back to that later. But then that night they reveal that they have feelings for each other and they decide to fuck. And later on, Riggs goes to find Murtaugh, who's hiding out in his boat, who is still completely overwhelmed with guilt for killing Daryl, and he helps to console and counsel him in time for Daryl's funeral, Murtaugh pulls it together and attends. He tries to make peace with Daryl's parents. However, Daryl's mom, who is just pissed the fuck off because her son is her baby and does absolutely nothing wrong, slaps the dog shit out of Murtaugh. However, Daryl's father, obviously he's upset, but I think just by looking at his face, he knew that his son was in some bad shit. But he says to Murtaugh, "You want to do something to help Sergeant Murtaugh? You find the man to put the gun in my son's hand." Which is a understandable request. Cole finds that Daryl's gun, the armor-piercing bullets, and the guns that they recovered were originally in police custody that were meant to be destroyed. And they were likely stolen by Travis using his credentials to get inside and have access to the guns without anybody batting an eye. And they then assure that his credentials are completely revoked from the system. And they further tied the guns to Tyrone, the little rat gang mobster boss, and interrogate him, with Lorna threatening to turn his face into a skid mark. Tyrone quickly reveals that he knows of Travis's plans, and they, including an auto garage where many of his henchmen, who are people that Travis had formerly arrested, work from. Riggs, Murtaugh, and Cole are able to take several of these men into custody, and meanwhile Travis finds he cannot use his credentials anymore, and he has one of his men hack into the LAPD's computer system to find another arms storage area, this one seemingly larger. He then forces Captain Murphy, still played by Steve Cahan, under gunpoint to take him to this new facility so he can steal a shit ton of guns using Murphy's credentials. Cole finds evidence of hacking and Murphy's absence, and Raj, Riggs, and Lorna decide, along with a rookie cop who looks up to both Riggs and Murtaugh, go in and try to catch Travis. They're able to rescue Murphy and stop Travis and his men before he can take all the guns, but unfortunately the rookie cop is killed, taking like 3 or 4 armor shots to the chest, killing him. And Riggs and Murtaugh vow to stop Travis together after a lengthy car chase with Riggs on a motorcycle, falling at least 40 feet through a construction piece while Travis gets away, dislocating his loose shoulder again, causing him to smash it back in. Leo shows up and provides info on a housing development under construction by a dummy company owned by Travis. Leo tries to come along, but in another really funny scene, Riggs and Murtaugh shoot out both of his tires to stop him from coming. And Riggs and Murtaugh bring Lorna Cole along to infiltrate the site at night, and they find themselves being met by Travis and his men who have been waiting for him, or for them. And a giant, large-scale gunfight breaks out in which Riggs sets the entire construction area on fire, and most of Travis's men are gunned down. Cole is gunned down by Travis using armor-piercing bullets, which pisses Riggs the fuck off and sends him into a Mel Gibson frenzy. After a very short and disappointing fight, sadly, Travis uses a bulldozer to try to crush down Riggs using its blade as a bullet shield. However, Murtaugh tosses Riggs Daryl's Uzi, which he had taken along with him to use against Jack's henchmen, which is loaded with armor-piercing bullets now. Riggs then unleashes the entire clip through the bulldozer's blade, tearing right through Jack Travis's entire body and just utterly slaughtering him. Cole is found to be alive and safe, having worn 2 protective vests. However, a couple of the bullets still had gone through and have mortally injured her. And Riggs admits his love for her, and she is taken away into a chopper to a hospital. The next day, Murtaugh's family celebrates Murtaugh's retirement. However, Murtaugh reveals to Getz and his family that he's decided not to sell his house and stay on the force for another 10 years. Preserving his partnership with Riggs and his friendship with Riggs. And as the film ends, Riggs announces to Murtaugh that he and Lorna Cole are a thing, thus ending the film. So how about this plot? Well, you know what? Probably my favorite, absolute favorite plot thread in... Hang on, I gotta get a drink. Excuse me. So, one of my favorite plot threads in cop films, especially in franchises, is dirty cops. Ex-cops. Dirty ex-cops. Bitter ex-cops. Who decide to go rogue and become bad guys themselves. That's probably my favorite plot thread in any buddy cop movie, cop film franchise, whatever, or a TV show, is rogue ex-cops becoming the bad guys. Just for some reason, to me, that really clicks. Because, kind of like how I see Red Hulk as being Hulk's greatest adversary, like how I see Mechagodzilla being Godzilla's greatest adversary, what is a police officer's greatest adversary, if not a former police officer themselves? Because they know the police routine, but they also know the criminal routine. That's a dangerous mix. Very, very dangerous mix. And to me, that always made a much more interesting story. That's why I find this story to be interesting, and it's why I generally think Lethal Weapon 3 probably has the best plot of the whole series. Close second's probably 4, but I'll get to that when I talk about 4. So, let's just jump right into the pros for Lethal Weapon 3, shall we? The characters, once again, are very, very good in this movie. But I'd have to point out, too, the Abomination is a Hulk adversary, but I consider Red Hulk to be Hulk's greatest adversary, but that's an entirely different story. Abomination is Hulk's most classic and iconic adversary, though. I have to point out, too, certain individuals in this movie that I think really stand out. Mel Gibson obviously still does a great job as Riggs. He's still a total badass in this movie. A lot of his anger that he had in the first movie, he had a little bit in the second movie too. A lot of it is gone, which does make sense because he's learned to love life because once again because he's around Murtaugh, who's given him a new outlook on life, which is great. Sorry, pants are riding up. And, just, my point is, Riggs is still awesome in this movie. And Leo Getz, he's still funny as always. He's the fast, the fast-talking, to quote Murtaugh from this movie, yeah, he's a world pain in the ass with a lot of connections. He's still funny in this movie. It's absolutely hilarious to watch Leo, god damn, I itch. To watch Leo interact with Martin and Raj. It's just utterly hilarious. But the two characters that I have to talk about that I think really steal the show. First off is Lorna Cole, played by Renee Russo. Sorry. She is awesome. She's probably one of my absolute favorite female protagonists in fiction of all time. It's a shame she's only in 2 movies. I still would have loved to see her Lethal Weapon 5, which apparently there are plans to have a Lethal Weapon 5, and I'd like to see that. I'm not going to lie. I would really love to see that. Even though Danny Glover's gotten up there in age, still, it'd be awesome to see. Anyway, Renee Russo as Lorna Cole, she's awesome. She is a great cop. She and Riggs go together like bread and butter. In many ways more than one. She's a good cop. She's very intelligent. She's a good detective. She's very book smart. She's very street smart. She's very computer smart. And she's also good as a field agent because she's good with the gun. And she's good in hand-to-hand combat. Oh my god, she is a total badass when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. She takes on multiple dudes at once, using various weapons, like random objects like a car engine, or causing a jack to make a car collapse on someone's foot, throwing a car engine at somebody to hurt them, stepping on someone's foot to make them lose their focus for a sec, then retaliating. Good with their fists, good with their feet, and also good with the gun. Lorna is awesome. She really, really is a female version of Riggs. And it's no wonder that these two end up fucking. But the best character in this movie, in my opinion, hands down, is Murtaugh. Whereas the first movie, I feel, was about both Riggs and Murtaugh coming together as a family. The second movie was a lot more about Riggs because it dealt with his past, which did make sense, of course. This movie is about Murtaugh. This movie, because the plot is more focused on Murtaugh because he's facing a moral dilemma. Should I retire or should I stay in the force for a little while longer? I don't know. I'm very conflicted. who I don't have an adversary. Omega picture. But anyway, this is Murtaugh's movie. He's very conflicted about his retirement. He's very upset about killing a 15-year-old boy who was friends with his son. He's facing, once again, getting old, which is a recurring thing from the first film, though it's not as kind of shoved in your face as it is in the first movie. This movie is just, it's Murtaugh's movie. And it's awesome, because Danny Glover, as Roger Murtaugh, he still proves that not only can he play an old man, he can still play an old badass. Because he's Murtaugh is a lot more involved with the final fight. He doesn't take down the villain, but he's a lot more physically involved with taking down the henchman in this movie, proving that he is still a capable field guy, and is still a capable badass. Murtaugh is so awesome in this movie, it's not even funny. I cannot describe in words to you how awesome Murtaugh is in this movie. And how funny he is. But overall, still, the cast and characters are great. The pacing of the film is very, very solid. This film has my favorite pacing. This movie just has my favorite everything. But the pacing, I feel, is best in this movie because it's very, very natural. It's never slow. It's never fast. It is just pure cinematic pacing. It leads you in when it needs to. It keeps you entertained when it needs to. It plays with your emotions when it needs to. Just overall, the pacing for this movie is very, 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 very solid. You're never bored watching this movie. Never, ever. The acting, once again, goes into characters, but still, it's really good. Danny Glover kills it as Murtaugh once again. Mel Gibson kills it as Riggs. Rene Russo is great as Lorna. Joe Pesci is still funny. And the rest of the cast overall, their acting is very, very, very solid. There's no... Well, except for maybe the guy who plays Jack Travis in this movie. Let's see, what was his name again? Shit, I'm not finding it. Here it is. Stuart Wilson, yeah. Stuart Wilson, he doesn't really have a lot of screen time. However, he does display the kind of sadistic asshole / just slime bag that he really is at heart. I mean, he'll just gun down people just for the hell of it and smile while doing it. He kind of comes off as a bit of a socio / psychopath in some scenes. Like when he guns down Lorna, when she falls, he just has this look of utter psycho glee on his face before he runs off. Ugh. It's a little over the top to the point where a couple times it's unintentionally funny. But I would say Stuart Wilson's acting as Jack Travis is good, but sometimes it's just a tad over the top. Next pro is that the music score, there's not really much to say about it this time around. It's still good. It's pretty much the same score as it is in the first two films. It's tense when it needs to be. It's lighthearted when it needs to be. It's darker when it needs to be. It's just a Lethal Weapon score at this point. It's still good. Still very, very, very good. Just not much to say about it this time around. The humor in this movie, I actually think this also might be the funniest of the series. Now, again, it's not like slapstick comedy, and it's not raunchy sex comedy. It's just really I guess you could kind of say it's slapsticky in a way, but not like Three Stooges slapsticky. It's just really borderline goofy humor. Like the beginning scene where where all the cops look at Martin and Riggs and just go, "Good job, dumbasses." And when they duck behind the cars to hide from the fellow police officers, Riggs just goes, "Oops." And then Murtaugh goes, "Yeah, Oops. um, and the scene where Riggs and Murtaugh shoot out Leo's car tires to keep him from following. Leo just goes, "I can't believe he did that! I can't believe he did that! What am I gonna do now? I got a spare! I got a spare and I'm following you!" Shoots out another tire. "Oh, come on, man! I can't believe he did that! I can't believe he did that!" Oh my god. Joe Pesci just really, really, really knows how to talk a mile a minute, which is why I think he's probably one of the most underrated comedic actors in existence, in my opinion. Oh god, Joe Pesci is so fucking funny in this movie. And also another really funny scene is when during the scene when Riggs and Murtaugh are trying to catch Travis at the hockey game, um, Leo tries to slow down Travis by jumping onto his back. He ends up getting shot in the arm, which is just a flesh wound. But they take him to the hospital and wanting Leo out of their hair for a little while. Riggs takes his hospital plans and writes down rectal exam, which should keep him occupied for a while. And they say that you should stay here because that looks like a dum-dum wound, which is bullshit. But and they say that there's a fellow police officer who got his thumb shot off by a dum-dum. From the shock, he was dead 2 days later. Dead 2 days later, just from a dum-dum wound. So he stays in the hospital, and he has a lobotomy, which is a medical procedure which involves Leo's crotch getting shaved clean, and he also gets a rectal exam. And when he comes in to confront Martin and Riggs when he gets out of the hospital, he's stopped by a female police officer saying, "Do you have a pass?" "What? Do you have a pass?" "You want to see my pass? Here's my fucking pass," showing up his bandaged arm. He comes in saying to Riggs and Murtaugh, "Where does it say that a gunshot wound requires a rectal exam, huh? With a telescope to see Venus." "Well, they saw was Uranus." Oh, shit. Oh, my God. This has got to be the funniest of the whole series. Just... I also think probably Joe Pesci is at his best in this movie as well. God damn, this movie's funny. Overall, the humor is really, really funny. Now, again, there's not going to be moments where you're just like you'll be in complete stitches. Your sides will be splitting open. You'll be laughing so hard, but you'll get some good laughs out of this movie if you're just looking at it as a comedy. Really, really good. The action scenes are very good as well. They're very well choreographed. They're well, for the most part, they're well edited. They're very exciting. They're pretty lengthy too. The first action scene is the car chase with the two dirty cops in the armored car. The next is... Shit, I gotta think about this for a sec. It's the... I guess you could call this an action scene. It's the ice hockey scene, even though it's really short. There's the warehouse fight with Riggs and Lorna. Another small action scene is when Murtaugh shoots Daryl. Again, it's really short. When Murtaugh, Riggs, and Lorna go on a little rampage looking for Jack's known associates. There's the car chase at the gun warehouse, which is really long. Not counting the gunfight and the car chase, I'd say it's about 12 to 15 minutes. And then there's the final gunfight at the construction site. That's 8 action scenes in one movie. Granted, yeah, at least 3 of them are short, but still, that'd be 5 action scenes in one movie, plus the 3 short ones. Damn. The action in this movie is really, really good, and it comes along at a the action is frequent too, so that's another reason why you're never bored. Is that the action scenes are always frequent, just one after the other. The next pro that I have is that the way that the villain is killed, it's awesome. Not only is it just a real sight to behold, seeing Riggs unload an entire Uzi clip of armor-piercing rounds into Jack while he's on the bulldozer. It's also ironic because the very weapon that Jack was using to kill cops, he is killed by, which is armor-piercing bullets, known as cop killers, which Riggs, after shooting Travis, refers to them as ex-cop killers. That really, really blew me away because it was just so unexpected. I really did not see that coming. It was awesome. And the last pro that I have, this I'm not going to talk about this one much, is that I really think the armor-piercing bullet idea being on the streets is an interesting concept because it kind of makes one of the most common pieces of armor that the police use, which are Kevlar and bulletproof vests, pretty much redundant because, yeah, you could wear one, you could even wear two, but you still could be killed. So, what the hell do you do? And I think they could have taken that idea and ran with it a little more. And what we have in this movie is fine, but still, you could have ran with that just a little more. But still, it really is cool. So that's it for the pros. The one con that I have with this movie, it is minor, but for me, it still is significant because up till this point in the previous two movies, Riggs had been very involved with fighting the main bad guy of the movie. I mean, he's the one who defeated Joshua in Lethal Weapon 1. He's the guy who killed Vorstadt in Lethal Weapon 2. He technically does kill Travis in this movie, but the fight between them, A, it's very short, and 2, it's kind of sloppily edited. It just looks like a really rough shoving match that's very poorly and shaky camely edited. It's really not that good, unfortunately. However, like I said, the way he kills Travis is epic, but the fight leading up to it is not. So with all that said about Lethal Weapon 3, I love the shit out of this movie. It's my favorite of the series, one of my favorite movies of all time. Definitely one of my favorite action movies of all time, without a complete shadow of a doubt. Murtaugh is awesome, Riggs is awesome, the action is awesome, the rest of the characters are awesome, the humor is great, the villain, he gets a great death. Overall, I really do think that this is the best of the series. Definitely my favorite of the franchise. Which is why, once again, despite the one issue that I have with this movie, I am giving this film a perfect score of a 10 out of 10. I highly recommend you check this movie out. And I also do recommend you check out the director's cut, which all first three of these movies do have. The first one really doesn't, or not the first one. Fourth one doesn't, but the fourth one is the longest of the series, so what can you do? Perfect 10 out of 10 rating. Check out Lethal Weapon 3. It's a really kick-ass film. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. And as always, go track down some ex-cops who are using armor-piercing bullets on the streets. And I will see you in the next one with Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse review, I think. Come on, damn it.